On my 25th birthday, I woke up in the Alpha's bed with his wolf calling me mate. Lyra woke with a start, blinking against the pale light streaming through tall, arched windows. She was not in her small, familiar apartment, nor in the city she had always known. Instead, she lay in a massive bed with dark velvet sheets, the scent of pine and something wild lingering in the air. Her heart thudded in confusion. How had she come to be here? The room was grand and shadowed, with tall wooden beams carved with strange patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Candles flickered on a long dresser, their flames casting dancing shadows that made the room feel alive, as if it were breathing. She swung her legs off the bed, trying to ground herself, and her eyes fell upon a figure sitting across the room. He was tall, broader than any man she had ever seen, with sharp features softened only by the deep, stormy gray of his eyes. His hair was dark and slightly disheveled, and his presence filled the space with a quiet, commanding energy. He moved like a shadow, silently, yet every movement spoke of strength and purpose. Lyra froze. "Who are you?" Her voice was small, uncertain, but it carried an edge of fear. The man's eyes widened, though only slightly. He straightened, as though caught in surprise. "You're awake," he said, voice low and smooth, like the rumble of distant thunder. "That is good, though I had hoped you would not remember so soon." Lyra frowned. "Remember? Remember what? How did I? Where am I?" He rose, tall and silent, his presence both terrifying and magnetic. "You are in my home, in my keep. My name is Kale." Before she could ask more questions, a low growl echoed through the room. Lyra's eyes darted to the corner, and there, emerging from the shadows, was a massive wolf. Its fur was silver like moonlight, and its eyes glowed a pale amber that seemed almost human. The wolf's gaze locked on her, and her chest tightened. It was no ordinary animal. It seemed intelligent, aware, and protective. Kale moved closer, hand raised as if to calm it. "It will not harm you," he said softly, though his voice carried a warning. "It senses you." "Lyra, it knows you in ways I do not fully understand." Lyra felt a strange pull in her chest, a connection she could not explain. The wolf stepped forward, circling her slowly, its eyes never leaving hers. Then, in a voice so low and strange it almost sounded like a whisper in her mind, it spoke, or maybe she imagined it. "Mate!" Lyra staggered back, shaking her head. I don't understand." Kale's expression darkened, his stormy eyes fixed on her with intensity. "You are the one the wolf has been waiting for. It has called you, Lyra. You are its mate."
Her breath caught. "Mate?"
The word sent a shiver down her spine. She had read stories of wolves and humans and myths, of bonds that could not be broken, of connections that went beyond life itself. And yet, she had never believed any of it. Until now. I don't know if I can," she began, but Kale's sharp gaze silenced her. "You can," he said quietly, though there was tension in his voice. "Whether you accept it or not, the bond is real. It has existed long before you were born." Lyra's mind raced. Everything about this felt unreal. The opulent room, the strange commanding man, the wolf that watched her like a guardian of some ancient secret. Her heart pounded with fear. And yet, a small, impossible part of her felt a pull toward him. Toward the wolf. Toward something she couldn't name. Kale stepped closer, and the air between them seemed to shimmer. "Do you feel it?" he asked, softer now. "The pull!" Lyra nodded, though her voice caught in her throat. "Yes, I think I do." "But it scares me." "It should," Kale admitted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. "It is not meant to be easy. The bond is powerful. It changes everything. It will test you in ways you cannot imagine." Lyra swallowed hard, her fingers curling into the sheets. "Why me? Why now?" Kale's gaze softened, almost unbearably, but there was sorrow there too. Because you are the one who can help, and because I cannot fight it any longer. The wolf padded closer, stopping just a step from her. Its eyes were gentle now, almost pleading, and it rested its massive head against her hand. Lyra gasped at the warmth and weight of it, the deep, silent understanding that radiated from the creature. A tear pricked her eye. She didn't know why, but she felt seen. Cale watched her carefully. "It has been waiting for you," he said. "And now—" "So have I." Lyra turned toward him, meeting his gaze. There was something dangerous and raw in him, something that promised both danger and protection. Her heart raced, not just with fear, but with something else. Something like longing. For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, and the candles flickered as though echoing the tension between them. Lyra's mind was a storm of questions, doubts, and strange new feelings. Finally, she whispered,
I don't even know what this means.
"How can a wolf call me mate?" Cale's lips curved in a faint, almost sad smile. "It is not for the mind to understand. It is for the heart to accept. And perhaps, over time, the soul as well." The room grew quiet again, the wolf resting at her feet, Cale standing nearby. Lyra could feel the weight of history, of something ancient and powerful pressing down on her. She wanted to step back, to run to the safety of what she knew, and yet she found herself rooted to the spot, drawn to the storm of power and mystery that surrounded them both. Call broke the silence. "There is much you do not know. Secrets buried for centuries. A curse upon my bloodline that cannot be broken except by the one the wolf calls. That is you, Lyra. And whether you wish it or not, you are now part of it." Lyra's chest tightened. A curse? What kind of curse? He hesitated, then stepped closer. "A curse of solitude and power. The Alpha cannot choose a mate freely. Whoever is called binds themselves to him, and through them, to the pack. And if the bond is rejected, terrible things can happen." Her eyes widened. "Terrible things?" Cale's gaze darkened. "I do not wish to frighten you, but I cannot lie either." The bond is not just a word. It is life and death, love and danger. It is everything. The wolf shifted beside her, nuzzling her hand again, as if urging her to trust, to believe. Lyra's heart pounded fiercely, a mix of fear and something she could not name. She looked from the wolf to Cale, and for the first time she felt the stirrings of a strange courage. She began, unsure. "I don't know if I can accept this. I don't even understand it yet." Cale's eyes softened again. "You will, in time, you will. For now, rest. There is much to learn, and the bond will call to you in its own way. You do not have to face it alone." Lyra nodded slowly, her fingers brushing the wolf's fur once more. She felt warmth, protection, and something deeper, a connection that pulsed through her like the beat of her own heart. She was frightened, yes. But she also knew that her life had changed forever in the span of a single night. Outside, the wind howled softly through the trees, carrying with it a faint, almost musical sound, a call that seemed both warning and promise. Lyra shivered, not from the cold, but from the strange, thrilling uncertainty of what lay ahead. She lay back on the bed, the wolf curling at her feet, Cale standing guard nearby. The room felt alive, as if it were waiting for her to choose, and somewhere deep inside she knew she would have to make that choice soon, whether to run from the unknown or step forward into it. The last thought lingered in her mind as sleep, sudden and heavy, claimed her.
I am not alone.
And yet, I do not know what I am stepping into. Outside, the wolf let out a low, mournful howl, carrying the word she could hear in her bones. Mate. And in that sound, Lyra felt the first stirrings of a bond that would change her life forever. Lyra woke slowly the next morning. The sunlight spilling through the tall windows of Kale's room made the shadows stretch and twist along the walls. The wolf, silver and majestic, was still at her feet, watching her with careful, intelligent eyes. Kale had already left the room. For a moment, Lyra lay there, unsure whether she wanted to get up. Everything from last night felt like a dream, but the wolf, resting against her bed, reminded her it was very real.
And so was he. Her curiosity overcame her fear.
She swung her legs off the bed and touched the wolf's fur. "You
Really did call me that word," she whispered. "Mate."
It still sent shivers down her spine. The wolf's ears twitched, and it nudged her hand gently. Lyra shivered again, realizing that the bond Kale had spoken of was not just words. It was alive. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, sharp and deliberate. Kale appeared, dressed in dark leather, his presence filling the room immediately. His eyes softened when he saw her awake. "You are awake?" he said. His voice carried authority, yet a strange warmth lingered beneath the surface. I have so many questions," Lyra said, finally finding her voice. "About last night, about you, about the wolf."
"And the bond?" Kale nodded.
"Then we should begin. There is much you must understand. I cannot hide it from you any longer." He led her from the room, the wolf padding silently behind them. They walked through the castle, corridors lined with towering bookshelves, ancient relics, and faded paintings of long-forgotten kings and queens. Lyra felt as if she had stepped into another world, a world both beautiful and dangerous. Kale stopped before a door carved from black oak. Symbols, old as time itself, were etched along its frame. He turned to her. "Inside is where you will begin to understand the bond. But be warned, what you see may frighten you." Lyra nodded. I am ready." He opened the door and they entered a room that smelled of old parchment and earth. Candles lit themselves along the walls, though there was no visible flame. At the center of the room stood a circular stone pedestal, engraved with ancient runes. "This is the Hall of Echoes," Kale explained. "It records the bonds of our bloodline. It will show you visions, memories, and truths that cannot be spoken aloud." Lyra's heart raced. "Visions? Yes," Kale said. "The bond chooses carefully. It watches before it calls. You are now connected, not only to me, but to everything that has come before." He gestured for her to step forward. She obeyed, though her hands trembled. As her fingers brushed the cold stone, her mind was suddenly flooded with images. Wolves running under moonlight, a young alpha standing beneath a blood-red sky, a woman's voice calling out to him. Fear and longing twisted together in her chest. The wolf stepped forward, nudging her again. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the visions wash over her. She saw Kale's life before she knew him. Moments of solitude, battles with rival clans, the loneliness that had filled his heart for centuries. She understood then why he had seemed so guarded, so powerful, so distant. Kale's voice came softly in the room. "Do you see why I could not choose freely? The curse demanded the bond, but I resisted. Until now. You were not meant to be mine by choice, yet here you are." Lyra's eyes opened and she looked at him. I feel it too. The pull. But I don't understand it. Why me? Kale stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Because the wolf chose you! The bond sees truth in ways we cannot. You have a part of it within you, a strength I cannot explain. It is why you are here, and why I am bound to you. Lyra swallowed, trying to steady herself. And what happens if I don't accept it? Kale's face darkened. The wolf suffers, and so do I. You may not see it now, but it is a risk I cannot bear to take. That is why I must show you, not just tell you. He gestured for her to follow him again, leading her out of the castle and into the forest. The morning sun filtered through the tall, dense trees, casting long, golden shafts of light that made the air shimmer. Birds called in the distance, but there was an undercurrent of something primal in the forest, something wild, powerful, and aware. The wolf ran ahead, circling around Lyra as if guiding her. She felt the pull stronger here, in the open, surrounded by nature. Her pulse quickened. The connection was real. Every step she took brought her closer, not just to Kale, but to something she couldn't name. Kale walked beside her, silent for a while, his gaze scanning the forest. "This place," he said finally, "is sacred. It holds the memories of every alpha and their mate. It is here that you will understand what it means to be bound to me."
Lyra's heart raced. "And what if I fail?
"What if I can't do it?" Kale's eyes softened, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. "Then we both suffer."
But I believe in you, Lyra. I have never believed in anyone like this before."
His words sent a shiver through her. She wanted to trust him, to step forward into the unknown, but fear held her back.
I don't know if I can."
"You can," Kale said quietly. "And you will."
"You are stronger than you realize."
"The bond senses it. That is why it called you." They reached a small clearing where the sunlight pooled on the forest floor, making everything look golden. At the center was a stone circle, etched with runes similar to the ones in the Hall of Echoes. Kale stepped into the circle and looked back at her.
"Stand with me," he said.
Lyra did, though her hand shook. The wolf sat beside her, its eyes glowing faintly. Then, Kale lifted his hands, and the runes on the stone began to shimmer with a pale silver light. "Now," Kale said, his voice steady but full of emotion,
"open your heart to the bond. Let it show you the truth."
Lyra closed her eyes, focusing on the pull she felt in her chest, the strange warmth that spread through her when she thought of Kale. Slowly, the visions returned, not of the past this time, but of possibilities. Moments of laughter, of protection, of partnership. She saw herself walking beside Kale in battle, in joy, in sorrow. She saw the wolf circling them, loyal and strong. A silent guardian. A tear slipped down her cheek. I think I understand!" Kale stepped closer, gently tilting her chin so she met his gaze. "Good," he said softly, "because accepting the bond is only the beginning. There are trials ahead, forces that will test you, test us. But together we can face them." Lyra nodded, her fear slowly giving way to resolve. She felt a connection, not just to Kale, but to the wolf, to the forest, to something ancient and powerful that she was only beginning to comprehend. The wolf let out a low, approving growl, then padded forward into the forest, leading them deeper into the shadows of the trees. Lyra followed, heart pounding, but with a newfound determination. She did not know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing. She could not turn back. As they walked, Kale spoke quietly, telling her of the dangers that lurked. Rival clans jealous of his power, ancient curses tied to the bloodline, and the delicate balance of the wolf pack. Lyra listened, absorbing every word, feeling both fear and fascination. By the time the sun had begun to dip below the horizon, they reached a small river. Its waters shimmered like liquid silver in the fading light. Kale knelt beside it, staring into the reflection of the moon that had begun to rise. "This river," he said, "marks the boundary of the forest's heart.
Beyond it lies danger, but also truth. Tonight, you will face the first test of the bond. Are you ready?"
Lyra hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "I am ready," she said. Kale's expression softened, and for the first time he allowed himself a small, genuine smile. "Then step forward, Lyra.
Trust the bond. Trust yourself."
She took a deep breath and stepped into the silver water. It was cold at first, sending shivers through her body, but then warmth spread from her chest, from the pull of the bond, until the chill became a comforting embrace. She felt the wolf at her side, the presence of Kale behind her, and the forest around her. and then suddenly the water shimmered with a strange, otherworldly light. Shadows rose from its depths, shapes twisting and shifting, visions of challenges yet to come. Lyra gasped, feeling fear, excitement, and anticipation all at once. Kale's hand brushed hers, steadying her.
Do not be afraid. Whatever you see, whatever tries to test you, remember, the bond is stronger than fear. Lyra nodded, squeezing his hand.
Together they faced the water, the shadows rising, the forest alive around them, and the wolf circling protectively. In that moment, Lyra realized that her life had changed forever.
She was no longer just a scholar, a woman of the city.
She was part of something larger, something ancient, something powerful, and the bond had already begun to shape her destiny. And as the first shadow reached for her, she stepped forward without hesitation, ready to face whatever came next. The forest was quiet, almost unnaturally so. As Lyra stepped forward through the silverlit clearing, the water from the river still clung to her clothes, dripping onto the mossy ground. The shadows had risen from the depths just as Kale had warned, and they twisted around her like smoke, reflecting her fears and doubts. Kale stood beside her, calm and steady, his presence a shield against the strange darkness. The wolf circled them both, its eyes glowing faintly, a silent reminder that they were not alone.
Focus,
Kyle said softly, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face.
Do not fight the shadows. Feel them, understand them, and let the bond guide you.
Lyra swallowed hard, nodding. She felt the pull in her chest again, the strange warmth of connection that bound her to Kale and the wolf. Slowly, she reached out with her mind, opening herself to the sensations around her. The first shadow lunged. It took the shape of a massive wolf, teeth bared, eyes glowing red. Lyra froze, terror gripping her heart. But Kale's hand found hers, steadying her.
Remember, it cannot harm you unless you allow it. Trust the bond.
She took a deep breath and focused on the warmth of the bond. The shadow hesitated, as if sensing her courage, then slowly dissolved into smoke. Lyra gasped, both from relief and awe.
You see, Kale said, his voice gentle but firm. The bond is more than just words. It is strength, courage, and understanding. It will guide you when fear tries to take over.
Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of determination. She stepped forward, deeper into the forest, where the shadows moved like living things, testing her at every step. Shapes of creatures she had never seen before appeared. Wolves with wings, eyes that glowed like fire, and trees that twisted into monstrous forms. Each shadow reflected her doubts, her fears, and even moments from her past she had tried to forget. But with Kale at her side and the wolf circling protectively, Lyra began to push forward. Each time a shadow lunged, she felt the bond strengthen, a warm pulse in her chest guiding her movements. She realized that the connection was not just with Kale or the wolf, it was with herself, with her own courage, and with the ancient power that had called her here. After what felt like hours, they reached a small clearing where the moon shone brighter than anywhere else in the forest. The shadows receded, leaving only a faint mist swirling around the edges. At the center of the clearing was a stone pedestal, similar to the one in the Hall of Echoes, but this one pulsed with a faint silver light. Kale stepped forward and placed a hand on the pedestal. "This is the heart of the forest," he explained.
It will show you the truth of the bond. Not just your connection to me, but to everything that came before and everything that may come after.
Lyra approached, heart pounding. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement.
What would she see? What truths awaited her?
The pedestal glowed brighter as her hands touched it. Visions filled her mind. Kale's life as Alpha, the burdens of leadership, the loneliness that had defined him for centuries.
She saw moments of bravery, sacrifice, and sorrow. She saw the wolf as more than an animal, a spirit guide, protector, and companion.
And she saw herself reflected in these visions as a part of this world she had never known, a part of the bond that connected them all. Tears filled her eyes.
I understand, she whispered. I see why you could not choose before. The bond. It is not just between two people. It is everything.
Cale stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. Yes, he said softly.
And now you are part of it. We face the trials together, and together we can overcome what comes.
Before Lyra could respond, a sudden chill ran through the clearing. The mist thickened, and a shadowy figure emerged. Unlike the others, this one was human-shaped, tall and imposing, with eyes that glowed like embers. Cale stepped in front of her immediately. "This is the first real test," he said, his voice low and tense.
Face it and you face your fear. Do not run. Do not hide.
Lyra's heart raced. She felt fear, yes, but also a strange sense of purpose. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, holding her hands out. The shadow hesitated, then lunged at her. She felt the bond flare in her chest, a warmth and light that surged through her entire body. The shadow froze, then slowly dissolved into mist, leaving only a faint glow behind. Cale exhaled, his shoulders relaxing slightly.
Good. You are learning to trust yourself, and the bond is responding.
Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. For the first time, she felt that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead, as long as she had Cale and the wolf by her side. They continued through the forest, facing more shadows, each one a reflection of fear, doubt, or unresolved pain. With every trial, Lyra felt stronger, more connected, and more certain that she was exactly where she was meant to be. As night fell, they reached the edge of the forest, where the trees gave way to a vast clearing filled with glowing flowers. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver light over everything.
Cale turned to her. The bond is strong, but it is not untested. There are greater challenges ahead, forces that will try to separate us, to test your courage and loyalty. You must be ready. Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of his words.
She was ready to face whatever came, but a small part of her heart could not help but fear what she had yet to see. They made camp in the clearing, the wolf curling up at their feet. Lyra sat beside Cale, feeling the warmth of the bond and the steady beat of his presence. "Cale," she said softly, I
don't know if I'm ready for all of this, but I know I want to try. With you."
Cale's eyes softened, and for the first time a small, genuine smile touched his lips.
And I will not let you face it alone. We face it together, always. The night was calm, but the air was thick with anticipation.
Lyra could feel the pull of the bond stronger than ever, and she knew that the trials they had faced were only the beginning. As she drifted to sleep, the wolf let out a low, mournful howl that echoed through the forest. The sound was not one of warning this time, but of recognition, of trust, of connection, and of a bond that could not be broken. Lyra dreamed of silver light, of shadow and fire, of a world she had never known but now belonged to. And in the dream she heard Cale's voice, soft and steady, carrying her through the darkness. Together, always. The bond is stronger than fear. When she woke, the forest was quiet, the first light of dawn spilling through the trees. The trials of the night had left her weary, but also stronger, more certain of her place in this strange and wondrous world. Cale was already awake, standing by the edge of the clearing, looking out at the rising sun. He turned when he saw her, and his eyes softened.
You did well, he said. The bond responds to courage, and you have shown it in ways that few could. Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the morning sun. I couldn't have done it without you, or the wolf.
Cale nodded, and for a moment, the weight of his centuries-old burdens seemed to lift, replaced by something lighter. Hope. But even as they stood together, the forest around them seemed to whisper warnings. The bond was strong, but there were greater challenges ahead, shadows they had yet to face, and choices that could change everything. And as the wolf padded silently beside them, Lyra knew that her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a woman from the city. She was part of a bond that spanned centuries, part of a story older than she could imagine, and part of Cale's life in ways that neither of them could yet fully understand. The first trial was over, but the journey had only just begun. The forest was silent. almost as if it were holding its breath. Lyra stood at the edge of the clearing, the moonlight spilling across her face. She felt the pull of the bond stronger than ever, a warmth that spread through her chest and radiated to Kale, who stood beside her. The wolf, silver and majestic, circled them slowly, its eyes bright with awareness. Kale's gaze was fixed on the ancient stone altar ahead, carved with runes older than memory. "This is the heart of the curse," he said softly. "Tonight we face what has bound me for centuries. It will test everything, our courage, our trust, and the bond between us." Lyra nodded, her fingers brushing the wolf's fur. I'm ready," she said, though her voice carried a tremor of fear. The truth was, she did not know what lay ahead. She only knew she would not face it alone. Kale stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Remember what you learned in the forest. The bond is stronger than fear. Trust it. Trust us." The wind shifted, carrying with it whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The shadows began to gather around the altar, coalescing into forms both familiar and strange. Lyra's heart raced. These were the remnants of the curse, the power that had isolated Kale for so long. The first shadow rose, tall and imposing, with eyes like burning coals. It mirrored Kale's greatest fears: failure, loneliness, the endless weight of leadership. Lyra felt a surge of panic, but Kale's hand found hers. "Do not fear," he said, his voice steady. "We face it together." Lyra took a deep breath and focused on the warmth in her chest. The bond flared brightly, spreading through her body like sunlight breaking through clouds. The shadow hesitated, then dissolved into smoke. Lyra exhaled, feeling her courage strengthen with every trial. Another shadow appeared, this one shaped like a monstrous wolf, larger than any she had seen before. Its teeth gleamed and its howl echoed through the forest, carrying a terrible power. Lyra froze, but Kale stepped forward, his own energy flaring. "Together," he said, and their hands met, fingers intertwining. The bond pulsed, and the wolf at their side let out a low, approving growl. Lyra felt the courage of the bond flow through her. She met the wolf shadow with steady eyes. The shadow lunged, but instead of attacking, it froze as Lyra projected her courage through the bond. The shadow wavered, then melted into silver mist, joining the light that flowed between her and Kale. The trials continued, each more challenging than the last. Shadows took the form of people Lyra had never known, visions of past alphas, and even Kale's own regrets. Each one sought to test her, to drive doubt into her heart. But Lyra faced them all. With Kale beside her, guiding her, and the wolf circling protectively, she felt stronger than she had ever imagined. Every fear she confronted made the bond stronger, binding her heart and soul more deeply to Kale's. Finally, only one shadow remained, a dark, swirling shape, its form impossible to define. Lyra could feel its power pressing against her, testing every part of her being. She stumbled, but Kale caught her, holding her close. "This is the final test," he whispered. "Do not let it break you. Trust the bond." "Trust us!" Lyra nodded, closing her eyes. She focused on the warmth in her chest, the pull of the bond, the steady presence of Kale, and the loyal strength of the wolf. The shadow surged forward, but she did not flinch. Instead, she reached out with all her courage, all her heart, and all the love she had felt growing for Kale. The bond flared brighter than ever, wrapping around them both in a radiant light. The shadow screamed, then dissolved into the silver glow, leaving the clearing bathed in soft, gentle light. Lyra opened her eyes, and for a moment the world seemed still. The forest was calm, the wind gentle, the wolf resting quietly at their feet. She turned to Kale, her chest heaving, and saw a mixture of relief, pride, and something deeper in his eyes. "You did it," he said softly, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "The curse, it is broken." Lyra shook her head in disbelief. We did it," she said, her voice trembling. "Together!" Cale's lips curved into a smile, rare and genuine. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Yes, together.
You have changed everything. Not just for me, but for the pack, for the forest, for the bond itself.
Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest stronger than ever before. She realized then that the bond was not just about Cale or the wolf. It was about her, too. Her courage, her love, her trust had shaped it, and in turn, it had transformed her. The wolf nuzzled her hand, and she smiled through tears.
I think I understand now, she whispered. The bond.
It is life. It is love. It is strength.
Cale pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her in a gentle embrace. And it is ours, he said, his voice low and steady. Yours and mine, forever. For a long moment, they simply held each other, the forest around them glowing in the soft light of dawn. Lyra could feel the pulse of the bond between them, steady and strong, and she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. But even as they embraced, a whisper of wind carried a faint warning. The forest had accepted them. The curse was broken, but the world beyond still held dangers, rival clans and forces they could not yet see. Lyra pulled back slightly, looking into Cale's eyes.
We've broken the curse, she said softly. But
there's still more out there. We have to be ready.
Cale nodded, his expression serious but resolute.
I know, and we will face it together. Always.
The wolf let out a soft howl, a sound of joy and recognition. It padded around them, circling protectively, then rested at their feet. Lyra reached down, stroking its fur. You were part of this too, she said, smiling. Thank you! Cale's hand found hers again.
It is not just the bond between us. The wolf, the forest, the pack, they are all part of it.
And now, you are part of all of it too. Lyra felt tears prick her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy, of relief, and of love. She had entered this world frightened and uncertain, but she was leaving it stronger, connected, and certain of her place. The morning sun rose higher, spilling light through the trees. Lyra and Cale stood together, hand in hand, the wolf at their side. The trials were over, but their journey was only beginning. And for the first time, Lyra felt a sense of peace she had never known, a bond that could not be broken, a love that could not be denied, and a life filled with both adventure and belonging. Cale turned to her, his stormy gray eyes soft with emotion.
Are you ready?
He asked. Lyra smiled, squeezing his hand.
Yes, she said. For whatever comes next, I'm ready.
With you. He nodded, pulling her close once more. The bond pulsed between them, steady and strong, a light that would guide them through every shadow, every challenge, and every moment yet to come. And as the wolf let out one final joyful howl, Lyra knew that her life had been forever changed, not just by the bond, but by the love, courage, and trust she had found within herself. Together they stepped forward into the forest, the sun rising behind them, ready to face the world as one. The trials had ended, but the legend of the bond, the Alpha, and his mate had only just begun.